Alrighty, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a great Sunday, and hopefully you had a great Friday and Saturday as well. Haven't seen you guys since Thursday, so it's been a little while, but we are back here on the channel for another stream. Let's see what we have here in the chat. I'll try to start at the top. We have Critty, as well as Western Ohio, Jonathan King, Bob, Indiana. Glad to see you back in here. Tammy, Twilight, also Maury in here as well, Tornadic Rebel, Jesse, Liam, Jefferson, GR3, Misty, and anyone else I may have forgotten to welcome who is chatting, or if you're not chatting, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. Let's go ahead and switch on over to the main scene. Don't want to spend too much time here. Everything should be good. I'm actually going to switch y'all to this scene just for now. Yeah, that should be good enough. All right, so we've got a little bit of severe weather to discuss over. We've got a little bit of tropical activity, not really too much. Obviously, we have our non-tropical low pressure over here causing some issues across South Carolina, North Carolina, and a secondary non-tropical low back up there towards off the coastline of New York and Long Island, which, by the way, New York City just got put under a state of emergency for those wind gusts and potential flash flooding issues out there over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. But all right, let's go ahead and dive on into kind of the overall what's happening across the country right now. Like I said, not really a whole lot. Like I said, we have those two non-tropical low pressures here and here. Stronger one is off the coastline of Wilmington. We have seen observed wind gusts upwards of 50 miles per hour across the coastline of the Outer Banks of North Carolina back towards Charleston, South Carolina. Significant beach erosion has occurred. Highway 12 in the Outer Banks has been shut down in multiple spots. There's been multiple cars flooded. I haven't seen any houses fully brought down yet. We see that quite frequently in the Outer Banks with stronger tropical systems. But thankfully, like I said, this isn't technically a tropical storm or anything like that. So it's not really strong, but it is strong enough to cause some of those issues. We have seen about 7 inches of rainfall here across just north of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So you saw that flash flood warning there in effect right now on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina. So definitely have been some issues with this non-tropical low. Then we have some rainfall across Oklahoma, Texas, Iowa, Missouri, just very scattered rain showers. Actually going to switch to winter weather here because way up here into Canada, We do have our first really notable snowstorm of the season ongoing, and this is obviously back up into southern Canada here. So a little bit of snow for Montana, North Dakota, but Canada getting in on upwards of 3 feet or 3 foot snowfall totals here. So 3 feet worth of snow will be possible across some of these areas, specifically on the border of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. So definitely some one of the more heavier snowstorms we'll probably see in southern Canada this year. I mean, 3 feet of snow, that's quite a lot of snowfall, but just barely staying north of North Dakota, just barely. So that's really what's happening across the country right now, as well as into southern Canada. I like to mention Canada quite frequently. Across the tropics, we do have a 50% chance of development out here in the main development region. Some models take this to be a hurricane. Other models don't form it even into a tropical storm. So if it really gets going, there's a chance it becomes a hurricane, and there's a chance it just never really gets going. So overall 50-50 shot at that developing. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards a better chance that develops than it doesn't develop. So we'll need to monitor that. But good news is that will be a fish storm that will not be impacting anyone. We are watching another wave coming off the coastline of Africa here. That's going to be tracking into the Caribbean. Kind of 50-50 on that too. Some models do want the potential for a major hurricane across the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic, whilst other models take a weak tropical depression or even lower across northern South America. So we will be wanting to watch the Caribbean here over the next 2 weeks, especially the next 2 weeks. We're in a very favorable pattern for tropical development across much of the Caribbean and even into the southern Gulf over the next 2 weeks. And then once we exit about October 28th or so, after that, we may have one or two AOIs, but that's really going to be it for hurricane season. After the end of October, we're really done. Like I said, could get one or two areas of interest in November, but I don't expect much whatsoever. Eastern Pacific, also pretty inactive. We only have a low chance of development out there. So the Eastern Pacific has started to settle down, and that was expected. And once the Eastern Pacific settled down, we're anticipating an uptick in activity across the Atlantic. Now, we've only seen a small uptick at the moment, so it hasn't really been much of an issue just yet, but that could become an issue later in the future if we continue to see the Eastern Pacific very inactive. That could continue to lead to a more active Atlantic season over the next 2 weeks or so. Welcome, Payne and Marcus. Glad to see you in here. Hopefully, you guys are having a great Sunday as well. Let's see. I see. Welcome to the stream as well. Is the weather going to do what Hurricane Sandy did when it went towards New York? Definitely not. Nope. No, this is going to be just some pretty gusty winds. Sustained winds probably won't be, but around 20 miles per hour. And we could see some occasional gusts up to about 50 around New York City in that general area. But really, I don't see it being a huge issue. There's going to be, like I said, some gusty winds here and there and maybe the isolated flash flood warning, but I don't expect it to be anything over the top. I do want to go through some outlooks really quick. So we just went through the tropical stuff. Let's go through the flooding outlooks really quick. So today we've got a slight risk for flooding across Arizona, which, by the way, we already had a flash flood emergency and multiple significant flash flood warnings out here. So this verified very nicely. Probably should have been a moderate risk because of that. So you can see we've got a slight risk out there, Arizona back into New Mexico. And we also have another slight risk back out here, South Carolina, North Carolina, and then a tiny little marginal across the New England states coastline there back into the mid-Atlantic as well. Tomorrow we do have a little marginal up in Massachusetts, New England state coastline again. And there is another dual slight risk back out here, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. And then a fourth risk back out here in California. Then as we go into... what is this? This is Tuesday. We've got two tiny little slight risks for rainfall really across just the mountains here, northwest and northeast of LA in southwestern California. Small marginal across New Mexico there. And then our nor'easter is off the coastline and well away from the U.S. as we go into Tuesday night. Wednesday, we do see another little marginal risk added here in New Mexico. And then Thursday, I don't know if we have anything for Thursday. Yeah, I don't see anything for Thursday. I'll just confirm that real quick with the WPC over here. Yep, there is no flooding risk on Thursday across the continental US. So there is no risk for flooding at the moment on Thursday. However, that will probably change. We'll likely end up seeing a little marginal highlighted, probably in what that might be like Colorado, Kansas at that point. We'll have to go over to see where our trough is going to be at that point. Got a flood report here in North Carolina. Let's see. Railroad Street is reportedly completely flooded. That's according to emergency management there. And that was about 40 minutes or so ago. So that's has this been observed then? No, they still have this flash flood warning as radar indicated, but we do have a report now of flooding in that area. Let's see. So if all the hurricanes in a season are Cat 5s, but none of them impact land, does that mean this system is inactive? Season, yeah. No, no. I think that's where people are really gray at. The general public's very gray on that. If we don't have 2 or 3 major hurricanes or a Category 5 slam somewhere along the coastline of the U.S., it's inactive. And on the flip side, if we have, say, 5 named storms, somehow just 5 named storms in an entire season, but one of those is a Cat 3 or 4 that hits the U.S., some people may think that's, an average or above average hurricane season, but in reality, we only had 5 named storms. So it all comes down to the named storms. That's the biggest thing. That is the number one factor on an above or below average hurricane season. Now, obviously, if you're affected by a hurricane or tropical storm, that's going to fluctuate what you think in a season. But talking about NHC and NOAA here, the named storms, that's the number one thing they go off of. Named storms. Which so far, I think we're at number 11 right now. I think we're at 11. I could be wrong on that. Because I know we had Karen, random tropical storm Karen was actually named after we ended our stream Thursday night. I think they named it sometime I think it was Friday morning they named that. That was way up here in the northern Atlantic, the subtropics there. So, I mean, we're still like a low-end hurricane season. We're still 3 named storms away from that. We are still 3 named storms away from that. And to be honest with you, completely honest with you, I think we're barely going to hit that. I think we will barely hit this. If we assume this gets named, whatever comes after J, whatever comes after J, if we just assume this is the next named storm, I think we have another chance for a named storm in the main development region after this one. And then maybe one more opportunity for a quick spin-up tropical storm in the Gulf or the Caribbean. And, that would get us at 14. I really don't think we're going to see too much more. I think we will see maybe one more MDR named storm, and then another named storm in either the Gulf or the Caribbean. And then there is a chance we get a wild card November named storm. But I think we are going to end barely average. I think we will barely end as an average hurricane season. Now, ace-wise, we may be a little bit above average for ace at this point. Let's see. Yeah, we are a little bit above average for ace. But if we ended the season today, it would be a below average ace season as well. Yeah, so we need probably, maybe about 10 or so more ace for this to be considered about an average. Yeah. We need about 10 more ace for this to be considered a average hurricane season ace-wise. But all right, let's go on into severe weather now, because that's the main reason for the stream here. Hopefully our GFS is a little bit more rendered in now. So using College Dew page, as we always do when it comes to severe weather. Let's go to 500 millibars. This goes 147 out. I think that is barely far enough out. So let's go pull this on out here. So this is College Dew page once again. So this is going into Wednesday. So Wednesday we'll have a opportunity for some isolated severe storms as this giant trough begins to push across the northwest portion of the country. And right in that right exit region, that's where we're going to have the highest chance for severe weather. Now, I don't think it will be anything crazy. You can see we're on very much limited instability, so it will be very much focused to barely off of the Rockies, if not possibly over the Rockies. And I do think there will be a small chance for a brief spin up tornado somewhere in Colorado. I don't know exactly where in Colorado, but I think, yeah, probably northeast Colorado Wednesday evening will have an opportunity for a brief spin up tornado. And then going into Thursday, if you check my Twitter post often, I did talk about the potential for severe weather up in the northern plains going into Thursday, but it seems like all models have backed off on any instability making it up that far. So Thursday, we may have the chance for a brief severe storm or two down here in the southern southwestern plains, but really shouldn't be much of an issue on Thursday. Friday should be much of the same. Maybe a brief instance of severe weather somewhere across that weak instability region, but overall, really nothing to worry about or much to talk about. Then finally, we get into Saturday. Now, this I have not looked at on the 18Z because it's just now starting to get to this range, 147 hours out. And you can see a much larger plume here of instability all the way from southern Texas through portions of Oklahoma, much of Louisiana, the whole state of Arkansas, much of Mississippi, Tennessee, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee twice, West Virginia, all in that area of instability going into Saturday. But it looks like there's a big issue here, and that's the fact that the GFS just doesn't have any digging. there is no forcing behind this trough. It's a little itty bitty wave here. I see a little enhanced corridor of flow right there across West Tennessee, Eastern Arkansas, but there's no push to it. So maybe we get some light rain here. Yep, you can see that very scattered light to moderate rainfall, but there's no big forcing mechanism behind this. There could be a very weak cold front if we take a look at temperatures. Nope, there isn't really even much of a cold front in here. Your main cold front is attached back out in this area, so there really isn't any forcing mechanism there on Saturday for this particular run here. Now, if we go to the 12Z GFS, completely different story. Completely different story here. A very well angled cold front here. Even looks like a low pressure across Oklahoma, Arkansas. So it looks like you've got a cold front right in here with a large warm front draped all the way from southwest Missouri all the way back up into Wisconsin. Moderate instability out in front across Louisiana, Arkansas. Now, a big problem here, yes, you have a lot of cape, but you have very little wind shear. There is still little digging. Now, you can see this very large trough here, which is digging, and that's helping to pull up that instability substantially quicker. But still, there's not a lot of wind shear in that area. You can see a lot of your shear is displaced to the east. You've got pretty strong wind shear out in Tennessee and Alabama, but back towards where that instability axis is, you've only got 100, maybe up to 150. So a lot weaker wind shear there. So you've got one scenario for Saturday where it could end up being a pretty good threat for severe storms, widespread damaging winds, some isolated large hail, and maybe even a brief weak tornado on Saturday. And then the other scenario is some very widely scattered, small hail, maybe isolated damaging wind event or two, and a very low chance for any tornado. And also the location of it changes drastically. You go from a southwest Ohio Valley and deep south risk to a really Tennessee and Ohio Valley risk there going into Saturday on the 18Z. So big difference between the two runs. And then 12Z here on Sunday does continue a small risk of severe storms across both the Ohio Valley as well as the far southern Alabama, far western panhandle of Florida. We'll see what the 18Z has there. So Definitely nothing set in stone here. It's like a meh risk for severe weather, right? Either way, I don't see this being an issue for tornadoes, really. Maybe worst case scenario, we end up with a tornado or two being a possibility at this point. Now, the European model run does have a pretty good trough last time I checked. A very large, positively tilted trough, but it ain't spring, y'all. This is not spring. We're talking winter time now, fall into winter season. A very large positively tilted trough with a little bit of oomph behind it isn't going to be able to pull up an absurd amount of instability. And you can see even on this product, the most unstable instability, the maximum pretty much is 1,000 joules down here along the coastal areas of Louisiana, Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi. So a positively tilted trough in October just ain't going to cut it. You ain't going to be able to get all that instability up into, where that trough may have better wind shear at. Now, it does have a better chance for severe storms. Also, note this: Saturday being in Kansas and Oklahoma, and Sunday being in the Deep South. So, a little bit of a timing difference there between the GFS and the European model run. So, just really, it's going to be more of a weight game here, where I'm not really, I'm not concerned about this upcoming event at all. It's definitely a watch and wait scenario. Now, that's pretty good right there. You can see that is that would give you a tornado outbreak right there in May or April. That would definitely be a huge issue. You've got a very elongated, sharply negatively tilted trough right there going into Sunday afternoon. And even with it being fall into winter, you still get a very large response from the Gulf here. And you get instability all the way up into Michigan and eastern, northeastern Wisconsin there. So that would be a substantially bigger issue. But thankfully, we trended away from that. Here's the 18Z into Sunday, and you could see a very large area of instability. I mean, this just changed completely. Like, this model run just changed its entire outcome fully. This is, 6 days out? Well, actually, this particular day is 7 days out. But 6 to 7 days out. And I mean, it changed the entire trough geometry and the entire setup here of severe weather. Matter of fact, I'd be more interested in that little itty-bitty shortwave on the 18Z coming across the Four Corners area than I would be in that big bowling ball trough across the northeastern U.S. So you could see how just a tiny little change in this trough up here completely changes the severe weather event further to the south. Just a little bit quicker, looks like. Let's see. Yeah, a lot faster, actually. A lot faster of a trough here on the 18Z is what ends up decreasing the opportunity for severe weather and also completely changing the location here going into Saturday and Sunday. About a week, once again, about a week out. We go live for any tornado weather. Yep, I normally will. Now, like 2% tornado risks, depending on what it is. If it's like a moderate for wind and 2% tor, we'll be live for that. But if it's like just a marginal for tornadoes, I'm not going to be sitting here for 6 to 8 hours streaming a marginal risk. But yeah, we'll stream sometimes in the summer, in the spring, and in the summer. Almost always we're going to be streaming 5% tornado risks and greater. But sometimes once you get into the late summer months, like July, I kind of back off on that 5% coverage because I'm getting tired. My main coverage months is from mid-March all the way through late June into early July. That's where normally I'm live streaming very, very frequently. But like if it's a smaller risk, it's kind of a 50-50 depending on my schedule. But yeah, overall here, I also want to show you guys another product. I want to show you this bad boy right here. People who've been here for more than about 6 months or so definitely will recognize this site right here. So this is a site that we use very frequently to be able to forecast long-range chances for severe storms. This chart it looks very complicated, but basically the higher the number, the better chance for severe weather. And the more of those tinier numbers that you see that are higher, is the better chance for overall severe weather. So if you have just like some outliers here, where you have like a random yellow in a batch of all blues, that's an outlier for severe weather. But when you start seeing, okay, yellow, 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 we've got 4 different yellows on the exact same date, and we've got a lot of lower blue contours here, blue colors, and even some white sneaking in here too. That's definitely a signal for severe weather in this time frame. This is actually a much larger time frame. This is from the 18th all the way through the 22nd, where we have a better chance for supercell composite in the overall continental U.S. So that's from the 18th, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is going to be Saturday. I think Saturday is the 18th, this upcoming Saturday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday. So that's a much longer time frame here. 18th, 19th, 20th. I don't really know why. I don't really know why that has severe weather lasting all the way till like next Wednesday. Well, there's a big signal. How is there such a big difference between the ensemble and the deterministic here? So one's got this perfect negatively tilted trough across the plains, and the other one has this sloppy, elongated, negative, but also partially positively tilted trough on the same exact day. Such a big difference between the ensemble and the deterministic there. Now, what's the Euro say? Well, hiya. The fact that, you know what? You know why this wouldn't be a big outbreak? You got this tiny little shortwave right here that sucks up all the moisture. So this itty bitty little guy right here says, I'm going to swing by and steal all the moisture and instability and leave nothing for this guy. Wow, but that is a ginormous trough right there. Yeah, so that's why you have that little signal lasting longer. So this is Saturday, 6 days. 6 days from now, little signal. Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, okay signal. Monday, some of them are literally nothing or a big outbreak. And then Tuesday, many of them are on the lower side. Wednesday, you start to get up a little bit more too. So it looks like right now, Saturday and Sunday have a decent chance for some severe weather. Monday, Tuesday is either nothing or insanity. And then Wednesday could be a little day for severe weather. And I am talking about next Wednesday, so that's very far. We're talking the 22nd, 10 days out here. And then definitely, I don't know what that is, but that's interesting. Substantial amount of ensemble members going up there. GFS 12Z, October 25th. October 25th. Huh. I don't see much. I mean, I see a big trough there, but I do want to make this point clear real quick. We're heading into second season. We are heading into second season for sure, but it's still going to be fall into winter. So again, you're going to have these perfectly timed troughs in the peak daytime heating time frame, and that just doesn't happen often at all during second season. Like I mentioned in my winter forecast, sometimes you could get actually about once or twice in second season, you're going to be getting unlucky and there's going to be that perfect timed negatively tilted trough. So it's only really a matter of when before we're talking about a substantial threat for a tornado outbreak. And when you get into a pattern like this, where you have a lot of zonal flow across the northern plains, At this time of year, that's not too favorable for severe weather. Believe it or not, you may be thinking, well, this is going to be crazy windbags, right? It's not June. It's not June. So you've got a blocking high pressure that is gladly blocking your instability. Now, sometimes, especially once you go into spring, that's going to actually favor pushing instability up with your low pressures. But the main thing is the reason why that's blocking instability is because it's keeping your pattern like this. It's keeping your flow is they're strong troughs, but it's still kind of zonal flow here. You have these little tiny kinks, but it's still kind of west to east flow. It's still relatively straight with a few little kinks here and there. So this high pressure, actually two high pressures, matter of fact, high pressure here, they're keeping these troughs from really divoting down into the Gulf and picking up that instability. Whereas if we go for our upcoming severe threat that we're talking about here, Saturday and Sunday, this is using the 12Z again. You could see because there's no high pressure in the Gulf, it's way down here into the Western Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. You get a trough that's able to kind of dig down and at least pull some instability up. It's not an insane amount, but it is definitely enough to end up with severe storms across the central U.S. and the southeastern U.S. And then on the 18Z, what goes wrong here, your high pressure is a little bit more north, which in return shifts everything more north. You can see the 12Z trough down here, 18Z, trough up here. So you definitely shift more north with that little kind of shortwave, we'll just call it little shortwave trough, definitely gets pushed more north. So yeah, but like I said, it's only a matter of time before we get a good trough to swing by. Even something like this would be good enough for pretty good tornado potential. That's going into the 22nd, actually 21st, Tuesday. So we're getting into a more active pattern where we're seeing a lot more troughs and some better, a better plume of instability in the Gulf. So all it takes is that plume of instability to be there and a decent trough, which is only two things to line up. Only two things. Only a plume of instability and a trough to line up, and then we get a big chance for a severe weather threat. And it's impossible to say if this is going to be that because we're a little bit too far out. We got to get past... Once we get to Thursday, we'll know a lot more. Thursday evening, we'll know a lot more as this trough starts to exit, and then Friday, we'll know for sure. We'll know for sure on Friday what's going to happen, generally Saturday and Sunday. Whether it will be a good chance for severe weather or whether it will be a lower chance. I saw a lot of people on Twitter discussing the potential for a 15% added by the SPC for Saturday and Sunday. I'd be blown away if they do that. You got to remember this is second season, so it's going to take a lot of support for the SBC to end up pulling the trigger on that. But they do mention, I'll go to their discussion. SBC. Hold on, drink of water real quick. So day 7, day 8, Saturday and Sunday. Lower level moisture advection is forecasted to increase markedly on Saturday. Let's see. As the trough moves through the Great Plains by the afternoon, an axis of, apparently they do say moderate instability could be in place across the southern plains into the Ozarks, with surface temps in the 60s. Scattered to numerous thunderstorms could develop along this instability axis on Saturday afternoon and evening. A severe threat will be possible from Saturday into Saturday night as the trough moves across the central U.S. Severe potential will also be possible on Sunday as the system continues to move across the Mississippi Valley. Although there is model spread along the solutions, most have a trough moving from the Great Plains on Saturday through the Mississippi Valley on Sunday. This scenario seems plausible. However, the models do still have a significant variance on timing and strength of this mid-level system. For this reason, we will not add a severe threat at this time. So they definitely considered adding a severe threat, but there's just too much uncertainty with the mid-level trough And there's a lot of it. You could see here. This is just our three main ones, the GFS, Euro, and the Canadian. GFS, big trough up here with minimal shortwave activity in the Central Plains. European model run, huge, huge positively tilted trough. And this would actually be a bit favorable for severe weather. You wouldn't have the best amount of instability, but it would still favor some severe weather. And then the Canadian model run with a high pressure. So that's three very large, different, very, very widely scattered scenarios. One being the GFS having a pretty good chance at severe weather with the 18Z, with a lesser chance of severe weather. The 12Z has a better chance for severe weather. 18Z not so much. And then you have the European model run, which has a chance for some isolated severe weather, but not too organized. And then the Canadian model run, which just says no to severe weather straight up. It just flops a big high pressure over Texas and says no to severe storms. So that's three vastly different scenarios there. So we'll have to see which way our models trend, but there's a chance for severe weather this upcoming weekend. There's a chance for severe weather this upcoming weekend. I can't say like exactly what will happen. Obviously, if we do see severe weather, there's going to be a chance for some damaging winds, small hail. But that tornado threat is very, very uncertain. If we end up with a big positively tilted trough, we could still see small hail, isolated large hail, damaging winds. If we end up with a negatively tilted trough, that's where you start talking about a better tornado risk. But either way, I don't see this being a notable threat for severe weather, like a very notable threat. At least at this point in time. That could change tomorrow, but at the moment, I don't see that being a notable threat. Not really, Critty, because we don't have our archive data. Unfortunately, I'm not able to access archive data for that event at this point. I will be able to in the future, but just not for the time being. So that's why I've refused to really do a deep dive on it, but we will go over it once we get more, once our archive data comes back. So, yeah, that's the main severe weather issues here over the coming days. Really just isolated severe storms for the next few days, and then maybe a bit better chances for severe storms Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll talk about after that when we get closer. Yeah, I don't want to start breaking down 280 hours out over here. It's not 10 plus days out. This is 6 to 7. These are the two threats I'm really talking about. 6 to 7 days out. Saturday is 6, Sunday is 7. I know you're already going to do it in their chat. Go ahead. Type away. This is the week 3 accumulated supercell composite parameter, but this is off of the CFS version 2, which is not very accurate. So I don't know why I'm showing this to you. Honestly, just ignore that. It's honestly that bad to the point where I don't even know why I just showed you, because it's so inaccurate. In the matter of a day, one day, this thing will go from having the potential for a mega outbreak, and then the next day, it won't even have a whisper of severe weather being possible. You think I'm over-exaggerating, but that is actually what this thing does, because it's looking 21 days in the future, which that's a guess. It really is a guess. That's when things are very uncertain. You can predict weather quite well in the 1 to 3 day time frame. You can predict it okay in the 3 to 5 day time frame. It gets a bit more fuzzy in the 5 to 7 day time frame. After 7 days, it's pretty difficult to forecast after 7 days. And then after 10 days, it's fantasy land. You're really just guessing. But then you can use more of pattern recognition. Once you go beyond kind of that 10-day time frame, you can get a look at your pattern, your overall pattern, which is what we were doing here earlier. Looking towards the end of October, I was talking about how it looks like we're going to have better chances for severe weather because we're going to see a lot more troughs. And just troughs being in the US, there's a chance one of them ends up getting a lucky swing of instability, and that causes severe weather. So that over pattern will favor a better chance of severe weather than what we're standing at now, which is just a weird flow of flow, a weird belt of flow over the northwestern U.S. And also seasons too. You can predict seasons too, but you have to use not really models. Models aren't really used for seasons. You're really looking at climatology for seasons. You're looking at your Nino indexes. You're looking at your let's see. Now I got to go look at what the initials was for it. Your PDO. You're looking at that, and you're also looking at. Is that it? Pacific Oscillation. I forgot what it is. It's not PDO. For some reason, I thought it was. Unless that is it. Yeah, that is your that's your Nino there, which is your PDO. Your PDO is your El Nino, La Nina, neutral, that stuff. I forgot. No, it's in the northern Pacific. It is in the northern Pacific. It's the North Pacific Oscillation. I don't know if that's the abbreviation for it. Yeah, that's it. NPO, North Pacific Oscillation. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, you look at that. And then, of course, you look at what the CPC is talking about for La Nina, El Nino. You also look at it yourself. And that normally, just looking at those two things, normally just looking at your North Pacific Oscillation and your ENSO gives you an estimate of what you could anticipate in any given season. And most of the time, it is correct for some areas and then dead wrong for other areas. It's very rare that it's either completely wrong or completely right. Normally, like half of the country, it's wrong. The other half, it did okay. CFS, we gotta have a nickname for that. What could that be? Never look at it. I used it for like my first hurricane season forecast, and I've never used it since, and it's never accurate. Whenever I see someone using the CFS, I just nope, bye bye. I'm not paying attention to that post because I tested it out myself and it didn't perform in any way, which is why when I showed you guys this map, I literally said it's not accurate. And then, like, why did I even show you? Because it's so dead and accurate that it's not even worth showing anymore. I did see a question up here. What happens if a negative trough has a positive shortwave, but there's examples of that where the event either busted or overperformed? You guys might be talking about something else there, but a negatively tilted trough. So that would be, let's see, with positively tilted shortwaves. That's very hard to get. Like if you're talking about a classic negatively tilted trough in the plains, like this you see here, typically your shortwaves are going to be angled with the orientation of your trough. So if you have a negatively tilted trough, you're going to have negatively tilted shortwaves embedded in that trough. Now, if you've got like a cutoff low, which is what you see here, this big old thing, that's a cutoff low, but that's not necessarily a negatively tilted trough at that point. That's just a cutoff low. So you can have positively tilted embedded short waves. It's just not even I don't know how to say it. It's not really going to do anything. Now, if you have a positively tilted trough with negatively tilted short waves, which is exactly what you see right here, by the way, positively tilted trough, negatively tilted short waves, right in here, that is often what causes severe weather in spring and into summer, especially, actually, spring and summer, both. But more, I see it more in summer. Matter of fact, National Weather Service, forecast tools, archive, June 20th, 500 millibar. Hey, positively tilted trough with a negatively tilted shortwave. There you go. Our latest EF5 was a positively tilted trough with a negatively tilted shortwave in June. Big old negatively tilted shortwave there. Huge bowling ball positively tilted trough. And I mean, that's a very large shortwave. That is a really, really large shortwave trough right there. And then, like I said, your bowling ball positively tilted trough back out here. Huge flow here. Let's see. Go back on that. Yep, and there's your little tiny storm that caused a EF5 right there. It looks very small from a continental view. What about the lower level jet response on that? Yeah, that lower level jet. So the best way to recognize a short wave is using 700 millibar for those who don't know. That's the easiest way to recognize it. And wow. I mean, you can't get any more clear than that for a short wave. Look at that. Clear as day shortwave right there. And look at all the other little tiny shortwaves you got in that too. But that is about as clear as it gets for a shortwave. Do all troughs have shortwaves? Yeah, yeah. Especially when you're talking about bigger troughs. But some of them, like the one I just showed you there from June 20th, have a lot more apparent shortwaves. So like in this picture here, there's I mean, this doesn't have a clear-cut shortwave, but there's definitely going to be some little shortwaves. See if you go to 700 millibar. There you go. There's a little shortwave right there. Little shortwave right there. Little shortwave right there. Little shortwave up in here. Opposite shortwave right there. Pretty good shortwave right there. So, yeah. I'm pretty sure all of them have shortwaves. Now, a lot of them are a lot less apparent than others. Most are a lot less obvious. But like this is shortwave mayhem right here. This is shortwave mayhem on the GFS towards the end. And this is using 700 millibar wind speeds because that's a little bit higher than your lower level jet. So it allows for you to see those tiny little shortwaves easier. Let's see. Yeah, but troughs, that's if you're getting into weather, troughs is a really good thing to study and learn about because that's the number one reason for our weather here in the US. That's your entire jet stream right there. Also learn which product's which. So your 250 millibar, that is really, really, really low. That is really, really low. Just kidding. That's actually very high up into the atmosphere. And in the 500 millibar, I was waiting to see if Catman would correct me on that. 500 millibar, that's kind of your mid-level. So that's your mid-level jet, your jet stream. 700 millibar, that's getting a little bit lower. That's what you use for those short waves. 850, that's your lower level jet. 925, you are very low. That is very, very low. It's not surface, but it is very low. So the higher the millibar, the lower you are. 500 millibar, mid-level. 850 millibar, lower level. I've never used... I've used 250 every now and then, but 925 I've never used. 925 millibar, I don't think I have ever used before. I've used 250 for a few things, but I just what would you use 925 millibar for? Maybe that's something you could use for winter. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, the big thing with troughs is just knowing the biggest thing is the orientation and the short waves. The orientation and the short waves. Which way is a positive, which way is a negative, which way is a neutral, and what's a short wave, and how can you identify them, and which way does the short wave point? And like I said, also what's your mid-level and lower level millibar. Bunch of drought relief. It's definitely a more active weather pattern over the next couple of weeks. We're definitely in a very active weather pattern, so we should have. Matter of fact, let's go check the CPC. CPC should have an above average chance for rainfall. CPC, which one is the CPC? This one. Yep, that is in the 6 to 10 day time frame. 50% chance of above normal precipitation right there. 8 to 14 should be above as well. Yep, moved a bit, but still above. 3 to 4, I don't know what that's going to be. Okay, a little bit below normal. 1 month outlook. Dang. I should have adjusted my winter forecast on that. That's for this month, though. So I actually didn't use this month for winter forecast. This is for October, November, December right here. Which I completely agree with this. Maybe that below average risk is probably going to shift a little bit more east too. And also a little bit more west with time. So by the time you get to December, this is going to be aiming a little bit more west, and this is going to be aiming a bit more east. But this is for a 3-month time frame. So for October, we're going to be below average over here. For November, we could be a little bit below average here and in here. And then for December, we're probably going to be below average in much of this area and in much of this area. So you got to think it's a 3-month time frame. This isn't just for like just November, just October, just December. That's your 3-month temperature outlook, which I agree with very well, especially with this part here. And then, like I said, once you go into December and January, that's probably going to shift a bit more left. Little above average for the Northeast. In December? Don't really agree much with that one. Maybe in November, but even then I doubt it. Really, I think you guys are near normal, if not starting to head to that below average now. Over the next couple months, next couple weeks, you're going to start heading towards that below average. Florida, yeah, Florida. Florida's Florida, man. What is your opinion on that sneaky tropical wave behind the invest? We need to watch it. We need to watch it closely. Depends exactly where it goes. If it goes really far south, it won't be an issue. If it goes a little bit north, it's going to be an issue. Because if it goes a little bit more north, it could easily become a tropical storm or hurricane for the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. Which the CMC, which is your Canadian model run, and the GFS and the Canadian both have that being an issue. I don't know about the new GFS, though. I don't know if we can look at that. Oh, we can. Let's go see if that's still... Yep. Still has being an issue for Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles there. Actually had a Category 5 on the 12Z. Look at that. 928 millibar with that one. But yeah, it definitely needs to be watched. I'll show you very quickly here. We're very thin on time. But you could see there's your tropical wave. And your high pressure is what gives it new life. If it just stays that far south, it's going to slam into South America and die out. But that high pressure grabs it and pulls it up towards the Caribbean, where it's very favorable for tropical development. The European model run doesn't have that high pressure. It has your high pressure here, yes, but that high pressure doesn't have a good hold on anything down here, so therefore your tropical wave slams into South America, and it's never heard of again. What do you think of the 21st based on the trough perspective? Too far out? That's what I think. But if I just went to it right now, I can tell you this, that high pressure is going to be an issue for instability. Yep, look at that. Pulls it right up. Wow, that was a lot better. Look at the 12Z. The 12Z had that high pressure blocking it. The 18Z actually had the high pressure helping it. Flip-flop right there. That would be a very big issue. But that's going to change in one run. But anyways, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. I won't see you guys for a little while here. I'll probably be back. I'll probably end up with a video, I'd say. Probably going to end up doing a video maybe Wednesday. And then we'll do another stream. I'll have a video out sometime this week, and then we'll definitely do more streams towards the end of this week. We'll do a stream or two, depending on the severe threat. So that's going to be it. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Sunday night. Go enjoy some football. I know most of you are going to go watch that. And I will catch y'all in the next video that I do, which should be, like I said, sometime mid this week. And then probably a stream towards the end of this week, into the weekend. We'll see. So not much content for the next 2 days. Monday, Tuesday, I'm taking off. Video will be Wednesday or Thursday, and then a live stream will probably be, I don't know, Saturday. That's the guess. That's the guess. Video Wednesday, Thursday, one of those 2 days, and then live stream Saturday. So stay safe, watch the weather, watch the tropics. Thank you guys for the support in this live stream. Thank you for the support on the winter forecast again. Can't thank you enough for that one. I've changed it to the home page now, so when you click on the home tab, the winter forecast is right there. Really appreciate you guys supporting that. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Lucky, I ain't heard from him in a hot minute, so I don't know. He hasn't streamed in 2 weeks. The last time I heard from him, he was at my house. That was 2 weeks ago. So, I don't know. I don't know what bro's up to. So, anyways, stay safe, watch the weather in the tropics, and have a fantastic rest of your Sunday night. Goodbye. stay safe. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you, mods, for mod chat, and I'll see you guys in Wednesday or Thursday's video. Goodbye.